welcome to the next in the 67 steps, guidelines, principles, forming new habits. Remember, it takes about 2.5 months or so to revolutionize your brain. So we are on the next one, which is called 20% Weird Factor, the Cabbage Mind, and the Treachery of Scoundrels. The leeway you should allow. I was just recording a video on the book Social by Matt Lieberman. How you interact with other people will basically make or break your life. In fact, Freud in Civilization is Discontent says, of all the 8 or 9 ways that humans seek happiness, the one that brings you the most highs is your interaction with people, love, romance, friendships, family. But he says, if this was suffice, or this doesn't suffice to give us all happiness, because he said when these things go bad, they're enough to basically, spin you off into a massive depression. So of all those areas, health, wealth, love, and happiness, social, the love component, is almost the hardest to balance. So we need some principles to be successful. And one of those I call, these are all kind of related, the 20% weird factor. So my business partner, John, many years ago, we were hiring somebody and I was out of town and I came back and this person we're hiring looked good on paper. Their resume was amazing. And I said, John, what do you think of this person? And he came back and he said, 20% weird factor. I was like, what is that? He said, well, everybody can be 20% weird, but more than that, you're going to run into trouble. And I call this also the treachery of scoundrels. I had one guy who worked for me for many years. Very reliable, very sharp, but a little weird, a little kind of antisocial, but a little bit too antisocial. And again, if you wrote down on a piece of paper the things that were kind of off, it wasn't just one thing or 2 things, it was 3, it was almost 50% of who he was as a person. So he was above this 20% threshold. And what ended up happening is one day he said, hey, I'm going to move to another state. Can I keep doing work for you, Tai? I said, sure. This is actually for me and John. Yeah, sure. Go to this other state and work for us. And he took all this important paperwork with him. All this paperwork for top clients of ours. This is in finance, very, important stuff. And we kept hearing less and less from him until one point he just disappeared working on all these business deals. He was handling the administrative side, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of deal, and just disappeared. Never heard from him again. And as I think through it, or as I thought through it, I realized we had ignored the 20% weird factor to our own danger, and the treachery of scoundrels is there. He treated us, now he wasn't a bad person, but that was the treachery. There's no reason. We were like, hey, we'll send FedEx. Set us the boxes back of paperwork. Never heard from him. We never done anything wrong to him. He never expressed, hey. He just faded off. He was an insecure person, which I've done a video, if you're on my podcast, but I'll revisit it here. The kind of people you have to be scared of. The people that become treacherous, right? The friends that bite you in the back, the family members that bite you in the back, the spouse that bites you in the back, or girlfriend or boyfriend, are people that are a little too weird, okay? And also, they are insecure. So I put weirdness and insecurity. Now, I am fully aware that the word weird is subjective, right? There's all what my weird, it might be normal to you. But there's a general sense of what's normal in humanity. And it changes throughout time. It used to be normal to wear a wig as your white-haired wig, like if you were a judge or something like back in the 1700s. That obviously is not normal now. There's a guy here on Sunset Boulevard, and his name's Kevin, and he walks around dressed up like Jesus Christ. He actually looks very similar. He grows a beard. He has long hair that's very, and he's got this long, like, one piece, kind of like, it looks like a dress, but it's like what you see in the Bible of Jesus wearing clothes. And you realize, when 2,000 years ago, that was pretty normal. But the question is, why is this person wearing this now? Like, it's not a Halloween. It's like, that's what he wears all the time. That's a high weird factor. And you need to do an audit of people you're working with, people who are employees for you. family members, because I'm telling you this right now, the kind of people that are going to treat you like a scoundrel, that are going to betray your trust, often originate in that pool of people who are most weird and most insecure. Now, there's a type of weirdness that I think is okay. People who think out of the box, people who, crazy inventors and mad scientists. And also, each of us, myself, you, we all push the envelope. If someone knew everything about us, we have some weird stuff. I'm sure you do. The point is, it can't be too all-encompassing. That's why I said 20% rule. Obviously, it's not a hard and fast rule that exactly 20, you can't gauge it exactly. But we all know when we've been somewhere and we bump into someone like, that is a weird person. There's 80% weird. Be very careful of hiring them. If everybody thinks they're weird but you don't, then I would say that's a little better. Maybe you're a little weird yourself if you hire somebody very weird like you. But in general, I still find this to be a very dangerous thing, because if you look at it, step back from this whole thought that, oh, they're just nonconformists and they're not buying into life. And that's not what I mean by weird. I'm talking about you and I are socially geared to assess the environment we're in. 2,000 years ago, you would wear a long, robe because you assessed the situation and you saw everybody else was wearing it. And you might say, well, Tai, what's the point? You might be nihilistic. Nothing matters. Who cares if I wear a robe? Well, it matters because the exterior does matter. If I came on the video right now and I was completely, drunk, I was wearing a tank top, or no shirt in this car, you might be like, I don't want to listen to this person, because we are designed to judge and read how we should react based on the reaction of other people. I was talking about this book, Social, Matt Lieberman. If you're in the VIP coaching, I was doing a call on this. And he says the reason we have these brains is our ability to interact with 150 people, like Robin Dunbar's number. But that means 10,000 human connections. So the takeaway from here is, and I want to talk about, one last thing. I called it the cabbage mind. I took that from Charlie Munger. What that means is you also want to stay away from a category of people who have what he calls the cabbage mind. These are people that they are Republicans or Democrats or conservative or liberal just because their mom was. And they really believe it strongly. There's nothing wrong with being politically inclined, but if the only reason is because you're unthinking human and you don't want to hear the facts and you're just like, well, it's good enough for my mom, it's good enough for me. Now, most people won't say it that way, but if that's the general reason you believe. Same with religion. I don't know what your faith is. You might be Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, atheist, whatever it might be. I have all types listening to this, but I will tell you that it's the reason that you are that thing that matters to me. So if I met you and you said you're Buddhist or Christian and you had a story and you had a reason and it made some sense why it was important to you, I would respect that a lot more than if you just like, no, this is what's right. I was just with somebody that was defending their religion. Just horrible conversation. They had a cabbage mind. Avoid too strong of opinions in things that you don't know. So what you're looking for in the weird factor in people is not just insecurity, but really strong, unfounded beliefs. Because again, strong, unfounded beliefs and the inability to question yourself and question what you grew up with is a sign that the brain isn't firing on all cylinders. It's also a sign oftentimes of insecurity. They don't want to admit they're wrong because they feel like that makes them look bad, which again points back to what I said at the beginning. You can't be too much around people who are insecure and too weird. A little insecurity, sure, we all have it. A little weirdness, sure, we all have it. But when it begins to rise, and only you can answer when that rise becomes too much. Everybody obviously has a different threshold. There's going to be people, you may be one person who's like 5% weird factor. That's all you can handle. You might be somebody that's more like my mom or hippie. She likes new ideas. And she might be able to handle 30%. But don't be careful when people are 50% weird. When they're weird how they eat food, and they're weird how they dress, and they're weird how they do business, and they're weird how they communicate, and they're social, and their car is weird in the house. When it gets too much, unless you're trying to build a, commune or something like that, or have some alternative living center, be careful with that, because normal people are not always better than weird people, just so you know. Sometimes weird is better, but most of the time, weird is just stupid. There's exception. Like, I can divide out people I meet who are truly weird because they're so far ahead in how they think. They're so intelligent, or they're so innovative, or so creative, you know, like Vincent van Gogh or something like this. And, you know, he cut off his own ear, and you might go, wow, that's a weird factor. That's a pretty high weird factor. But at least it was his creativity and his madness was productive. Einstein, I have a friend who grew up, and he's an older guy, and he remembers meeting Einstein. Would come buy food at his farm every weekend, and he's like, oh, Einstein smelled so bad. No one wanted to get near him. So that's a weird factor, you know, smelling bad. The question is, why are you not taking a shower? Normal human conventions and health conventions are take a shower. And when you meet people that just discard that, they're usually trying to compensate for something. They're like, no, I'm not going to, you know, do the obvious and take a shower. I'm going to be counterculture. It's oftentimes from insecurity, and insecurity is the root of treachery. The more secure of people that I know, the less chance and the less experience I have with them doing something wrong. Or wrong to me. So, what I want you to do is know that you may be too far on one way. That means you don't even give people 20% weird factor. If they're not just a little cookie cutter of who you are, you just cut them off. Well, that's wrong. That's not what we're talking about. You need to allow some differences. Alan Nation said, Tai, don't marry someone like you. You already know yourself. Marry somebody who compliments you, or somebody different. You know, when we hire, we got a consultant that helps us do the Myers-Briggs when we hire people. And you're not going to be well-rounded as a person, but you can be well-rounded as a team. So it's very important that you not be too judgmental of people. Let people be a little weirder than you, especially on certain subjects. That's on one end. But be careful on the other end. Most people listening, when I do these talks, they're either one over here too much or over here. You find that middle ground, okay? You also find the middle ground when it comes to insecurity. How much insecurity you're willing to put up with. For people very critical to you, I'm talking people who like have your bank account info, people who take care of your children or something. Those are the ones that you got to be really picky and go, no, person's too insecure, a little too weird, I'm worried. And just, you got to cut them out. You can, the good news is if you do this ahead of time, when you watch this, you can slowly do it. Okay? So, I want to leave you with 3 questions, okay? Number 1, take any person that comes to mind that's critical to your business life and operations. Could be a spouse, could be an employee, could be a business partner. What is their weird factor? Okay, 0 to 100%. Number 2, what's yours? And again, you might say, well, Tai, what is an exact, gauge of what's normal? Just take society in general, okay? I'm not saying you need to be status quo. There's a difference. Status quo and weird are not the opposite, okay? You can be a true innovator. I love that. You can be a mad scientist. You can be thinking of things that seem weird to other people. The idea seems weird, but I'm talking about you as a person. See, you can be weird. But if you're weird and you have a weird idea, it's a little bit like what Alan Nation told me. He said, Tai, you can be a nudist and people will give you a pass. Oh, that Tai guy, he's kind of weird. I mean, he's a good guy, but he's kind of in this weird nudist thing. It will still hang out with him. Everybody's a little weird. Then Alan Nation said, you can be a nudist and you can be a Buddhist. If you suddenly became a Buddhist, maybe some of your family friends are like, oh, that's kind of weird. We grew up one way. But Alan Nation said, you can't be a nudist Buddhist. It's too weird. And that's the principle I teach in business, and when you develop your products, how you're selling things, make them not so weird. Frank Chindamo, professor at UCLA, one of the top internet professors of internet, he says, you got to tread on mental real estate that already exists. But anyway, if you're not in the business stuff, you could leave a comment here or email me at tailopez.com. We'll send you some links to get into that. It's kind of invitation only. But going back to this kind of principle of weirdness, you know, what's yours? What areas are you weird in? Okay, and what percent you think you are. Thirdly, insecure. How are you dealing with the insecure people in your life? Remember, insecure does not, you could have someone just starting out. It's not a materialistic thing. You could have a very wealthy, in fact, I know a lot of wealthy people insecure. So it's not about how much money they have or success. There's people at the top and the bottom that are very insecure. And there's people at the bottom and the top that are very secure. So who are or who is someone that's most secure in your life, and what can you do over 18 months, the next 18 months, to slowly phase them out, or at least phase them to less hours around you? Your environment does affect you. So thank you so much for being here, and I will see you on the next 67 step. Make sure you leave the comments below and in your private journal if you want to take a picture, and email me those at tailopez.com. I'd love to check them out. All right, talk to you soon.